and take it away. I'll be monitoring for people coming in.
All right, well, thank you everybody for joining us today. We're really excited to be able to feature our SHCC member, PG&E. PG&E has been a member of the Solano Hispanic Chamber for several years. And so we're really excited to be able to provide this platform to be able to feature a really great topic of interest to our community, which is around the power shutoffs. And we'll learn a little bit more about what that means. So one of the things that we always want to do is give everyone a welcome to joining us. Feel free to introduce yourself in the chat window, who you are, your business. If we can make connections here as we're starting to go live into our Zoom presentation, we would love to be able to do that. So thank you all so very much. As always, the reason why we put these forums together is simply to be able to give access to our community to information. Specifically to be able to host different experts that can share knowledge, information, and give us some guidance on things that are relevant or important to us as community members. A couple of tech norms that we do want to remind everyone who's on the call is we do ask that you mute yourself when not speaking, but you're free to use the chat window if you just want to share a comment or a thought or a question. We will be moderating those comments and questions to capture so we can ask the facilitators today to our guest, or if later on you want to unmute yourself when there's an open for Q&A, you're welcome to do so at that time. As a reminder, this meeting will be recorded, and this is simply for us to have the opportunity to share more widely to members in the community. And when you have an opportunity to share your screen and share your, so we can see your face, it's just a really great way to be able to continue to make those connections. As we begin to talk about our meeting norms, one of the in agreements in this space, we ask everyone to stay engaged in the conversation. I know there's a lot going on, so we are really thankful for you all making the time today. To be kind and brave, and what that means is that just a friendly environment, but be brave enough to lean into a tough question or curiosity around something that is of interest to you. Sometimes it's hard to raise a question when you unmute yourself, so feel free to do that in the chat window. Always, we look for embracing new learning, which is what this entire day is about. And we also mention about expect and accept non-closure. And what that means to us is we may not have all the answers today. There's different questions that might come up or arise. We may not be able to get to all of them or have them all answered today. So what we'll do is we will do follow-up at a later time to just have an opportunity to answer those questions either by email or connecting with our facilitators today. So with that, I do once again want to give a warm welcome to PG&E. We have two wonderful people who will be talking to us today, and I will ask them to introduce themselves, Amit and John. So whichever of you would like to go first and tell us a little bit about who you are and your role with PG&E.
Thank you, Elma. First of all, thank you to the Hispanic Chamber and Leo and Elma for hosting this call. I think it's going to be very informative for the members here. My name is Amit Pal. I am the Government Relations Representative for Sacramento Division, which covers Sacramento County, Yolo, Colusa, and Solano. And I also have my colleague, John Costa. John, the floor is yours.
All right. Good evening, everyone. My name is John Costa. I manage local public affairs in Northern California for PG&E. I have the opportunity to work with my colleague Amit on a day-to-day as it relates to government relations and public affairs in your communities. So thank you.
Perfect. Thank you, John.
Well, welcome and thank you so much.
Thank you both. I will go ahead and start sharing a screen with the presentation that you provided, Amit.
Thank you, Leo, for running the slide deck for us. We really appreciate it. This is going to be a team effort between John and I. And I think if you guys have questions for the time being, let's use the chat function. And maybe, Leo, if you can help moderate that, that'd be great for us. And I know at times if there's something urgent, on a slide, do pause and ask at the later time, or put it in the chat function. So thank you. So everybody's heard of PSPS, but first thing I do want to clarify, and I think Alma had a great point out, we had power shut off on June 2nd due to an unfortunate incident of a helicopter crash in Solano County. was shut off power to about 38,000 people. There's some miscommunication that it was a PSPS event. That is not the case. That power was shut off due to the crash, and it was requested by CAL FIRE to allow our crews to allow CAL FIRE to investigate the cause and do what they needed to do. So now going to PSPS for 2020, there's three components that we're going to talk about. They're going to be smaller in size, short in duration, and smart for our customers. Our goal is to reduce the number of customers impacted by PSPS events by 1/3 compared to 2019. We want to restore customers twice as fast after severe weather has passed. We want to provide more accurate, timely communications and additional resources. We also want to deliver more assistance for customers before, during, and after a PSP event. Next slide, please. So smaller in size, what are we doing? So we're installing sectionalizing devices on the transmission distribution systems capable of redirecting power and limiting the size of the outage. We're also developing microgrids that use generators to keep the lights on. We're also conducting targeted undergrounding as part of the system hardening. And we'll talk a little bit more about microgrids later on. So that would be essentially putting up a generator of some sort to a substation. So then there's a PSPS outage, we can generate that substation. So next slide, please. Short in duration. So what we're doing is we're adding more field crews to speed up the inspection of our lines. We have expanded our helicopter fleet from 35 to 65 for aerial line inspections. We're also commissioning 2 new airplanes for aerial line inspections. We're using infrared equipment to inspect at night. This is new technology. Typically, we could only do that during the daytime. Next slide, please. Smarter for customers. So we are enhancing meteorology technology to pinpoint locations and timing of severe weather. We're also bolstering website capacity. I know last year that the website had crashed. We've made it improved, more capacity driven, improving customer alerts and notifications. We're also upgrading our community resource centers, improving coordination with local agencies and critical service providers. We're working with the California Foundation of Independent Living Centers and other community-based organizations to support vulnerable customers. We also want to make it easier for eligible customers to join and stay in the medical baseline program. We're also expanding in-language communications, and I know after this meeting, once I have it approved for Spanish, Leo and Elma, I will share that with you guys. Next slide, please. So this slide is typically for presentation to our city council or county government, but I wanted to kind of give you guys an insight of what PG&E has done in the outreach to those government agencies or our agency partners. So PG&E will offer the following resources to support local EOCs during a PSPS event. Local EOC liaison can be embedded in a county or tribal's local EOC upon request. GIS technical specialist can be embedded in a county or tribe's local EOC upon request. Remote support is also available if preferred. Agency representative, I know last year John was embedded with Solano County EOS, Office of Emergency Services, so that point we have a single point of contact during an event. Third-party representatives such as cities, counties, tribes, water agencies, and telecom providers, they can also request to send a representative to our EOC during a PSPS event. So EOCs are PG&E's Emergency Operations Center. Next slide, please. So in event communications, this is what PG&E is doing with our firefighters, agency, water agencies, sewer districts. We will host one system-wide cooperators call, hosted once daily by our EOC. This will provide high-level updates, information only. There won't be an opportunity to ask questions back and forth. Local and tribal agencies within the service area are welcome to join the call, as well as other public safety partners, as I mentioned, telecom, water providers, transportation agencies, community choice aggregations, etc. And then there will be a second call, which is the Operational Area Cooperators Call, which will be hosted twice daily by agency representatives such as myself in Public Affairs and Les Putnam for Solano County for Public Safety Specialist, with each county and impacted county and tribe. Event-specific information changes will be reviewed. This is the opportunity where local jurisdiction will have the opportunity to resolve local issues and ask questions. Next slide, please. So this is our community resource centers. I know last year there were some in Solano County. John, feel free to jump in here. I think it was the Vallejo Fairgrounds. It was indoor, outdoor. Suisun City Community Center, there's one in Fairfield. But this year, we have a signed agreement with the Joseph A. Nelson Community Center, Suisun City, which would be an indoor facility. And the question that was asked as well, if the site is impacted by PSPS, how will they stay with power? So PG&E is actually making improvements to the site by upgrading their panel, and PG&E will provide the generator during the PSPS event to these sites. So there's opportunity for people to recharge their devices, get information, and have like water and stuff. So we also have the Solano Community College site in Vacaville. We're in conversation with Florence Douglas Senior Center in Vallejo, and also a indoor site in Fairfield. The green represents the outdoor sites that we have. This will be, generally speaking, a tent area where you could go in, get some information, get some snacks, and then you can be on your way. So next slide, please. And John, that's your.
No, next slide, please. Number 9. I think.
You say you want to skip the next one?
No, slide number 9. John's going to present on slide number 9.
Okay.
Thank you, Leo.
Thank you. So the next few slides will show the impacts of these events in 2019. And then the third one will show what we're doing to lessen these impacts. So this one here shows the events from October 9th through the 12th. And as you see, the yellow is the tier 2 area in Solano County, just the north part of the county. And just north there, you've got also tier 2, tier 3. So you've got infrastructure that comes in through the north and also through the east into the county, which were impacted during this event. So it kind of gives you an idea. The blue is the area of impact. Next slide, please. Now, as you see from this one, it's different. So, you know, as we've discussed before, there's weather impacts are so dynamic. So we look at red flag warnings, weather patterns, climate, moisture content in the area, and all of those factors go into determining a PSPS event. So this particular event, October 26th through November 1st, were actually 2 events back to back. So as we were in the process of waiting for the weather all clear and starting to restore, another event came in and we had to de-energize as well. And so you see the area of impact is significant because it was two events in one. Next slide, please. Now, this slide shows us, you know, one of the things Amit had mentioned is how we're trying to lessen the impacts of these events. So we're looking at installing new sexualizing devices. So the target for this year is 17. We have 13 completed. And as you see on the map, the orange dot shows where these sexualizing devices will be in place. And what it also shows you is the potential area of reduction from that last event. So as you see, it's going to be smaller in size, so less impactful. It doesn't mean that it'll go away completely. There's still a potential of these events having an impact. But these are just some of the pieces of infrastructure we're putting in place to lessen the impact of these events. And it's still really in the northwest part of the county where these tier 2 areas exist. Any questions on this particular slide? Okay, next slide, please.
All right, thank you, John. Thank you, sir. So now we're going to talk a little bit about medical baseline program. So what is our medical baseline program? It's a program that provides financial assistance to residential customers that have special energy needs due to certain qualifying medical conditions. Eligible customers may receive a standard medical baseline quantity of approximately 500 kilowatt hours of electricity and or 25 therms of gas per minute in addition to regular baseline quantities. So who qualifies for the medical baseline? It's a dependent on life support equipment used in the home, paraplegic, and quadriplegic or multiple sclerosis patients with special heating and or air conditioning needs. I will say this, that if you are somebody with a breathing problem and you use a nebulizer or sleep apnea, those devices qualify as well. As of effective June 23rd, the process made very streamlined. You can now actually go online, submit all the information, and the application will go in, or you can fill it out and send it by postal mail. And the benefit of this is, in an event of a PSPS event, the customer would get additional time notification for the event. And until or unless you acknowledge that you know of the event, at some point, if you do not, somebody will come to the door and inform you of a PSPS event. To clarify, this does not exempt the PSPS event. That will still occur, but it will just give the customer additional time, and PG&E knows that this person is using a medical device. So highly encourage people to sign up for this program. And I'll pause there. And John, if there's anything else you might want to add on medical baseline, or if there's any questions on this, I know this usually comes up.
No, nothing for a minute.
If someone has a question, you can please unmute yourself or put it in the chat section.
I do have a question in this area.
Yes, go ahead, ma'am.
Go ahead, Rosa.
My name is Rosa. Thank you for this information, and thank you, Leo, for setting it up. My question is in regards of the potential customers that need medical equipment. I work for an assisted living community, which is an RCFE, residential care facility for the elderly. And we do not have a generator. However, we do have several residents, they have the use of oxygen, but they are under our care. How will they benefit with the eligible program that you are talking about here?
So Rosa, great question. I think I'm gonna see if John, do you have any information on this?
Yeah, if you don't mind, I'll jump in. So
yeah.
This particular program on the medical baseline is intended to do two things. It's intended to provide financial assistance for those customers in need as it relates to medical baseline products. The other is really, it provides us an opportunity to ensure we are responding accordingly during these events. So this particular program requires that a customer self-identify. From there, we can work with first responders during an event to provide in need. So this program is intended for that. As it relates to generators or any backup temp generators that the customer may need or this facility may need, we do have programs for that. We do have information on our website. What we could do is, if you don't mind following up after, we can provide you with that information and a contact that can start having those conversations with this particular site.
Fantastic.
Hey, John.
Thank you.
And I was going to say one other thing is, we are working with the Center for Independent Living, along with other community-based organizations. And so we're providing grant funding through them to provide assistance in the form of potential hotel vouchers in an event, backup batteries for those in need. So we also have some information later about resources that are on our website that you can go to and you can provide to the community for more information.
Fantastic, thank you. And just to recap, the program not only for the community, the RCFF community that I work for, but I get a lot of calls from the public sometimes, and so that I will be able to redirect them, because I consider myself to have the knowledge to be a resource for them in many aspects. So to recap in that, they can find the application to apply for the program in the website?
It's on PG&E's website, yes, ma'am.
PG&E website. What is the specific verbiage or title that they should be looking for?
So for this particular program, it's medical baseline.
Medical baseline.
Mm-hmm. There is a section on our website called PSPS. And under that would have all of this information as relates to those types of events.
What about for the Spanish speaking public? Do they have a?
Yes, we do have in-language material on our website as well.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. You're welcome.
Perfect. Thank you. Leo, next slide, please. So, Rosa, I think this might be helpful as well. This is, I think, the links and resources that John was referring to. So where to go for additional information? There's several links, pg&e.com/mywildfirealerts, pg&e.com/PSPS updates. One thing I can emphasize for a lot of folks here is please go on the website, make sure that your contact information is updated with PG&E. We can only reach out to you with the data we have, and if it's wrong data, then we cannot reach out to you. Sometimes I get the questions, well, hey, how does a PSPS event really work? We actually have a website dedicated to that, and that's our pg&e.com/weather. It is a 7-day forecast on any potential PSPS event. So, for example, say if you hear from somebody, hey, is there a PSPS event? You can go to that link, and it would kind of clearly lay out what the next event is or how the weather is looking. Questions about, hey, can I get a generator, my thermostat, and things of that nature. You can access pg&e.com/backup power Rosa. So that, I think, link may actually help to answer that question. The other thing, link that I've used is the Safety Action Center. It has a lot of information there. Prepare for a power shutdown, that link as well. And then for our people, if you or someone you know has a disability or additional special needs, please access disabilitydisaster-access.org. I'll pause here to see if you guys have any questions or comments that John and I can answer for you. Okay, hearing none. So the next slide, please, Leo. So outreach and engagement, this is more, once again, for the government agencies that we share with, but once again, we want to show to you what PG&E has done or will be doing in the community for outreach. Next slide, please, Leo. So PG&E has done wildfire safety working sessions where we work with our counties, our tribes to conduct 47 web-based community wildfire safety program sessions. We wanted to do these in person, but due to COVID-19, we had to take all of this sessions online. I think that may actually have helped a little bit because we are seeing greater participation at this point. So if you look at Solano County, we did ours with the first responders, agency representatives, water districts, sewer districts on March 31st, and we had 50+ people that joined. So this is proactive communications. Topics for the working sessions included County Pacific plans for wildfire safety in 2020, critical items requiring local input to prepare for public safety power shutoffs, review of PG&E's 30-year weather analysis, and we actually did a walkthrough with our electric grid overview with the agencies. So we've done that in Solano County. Let's see, is there anything else I'm missing? Nope, that's it. Next slide, please. Leo, may I have the next slide, please? Thank you, sir. This is our open house webinar schedule and outline. This was once again that we wanted to do in person, but due to COVID-19, we had to move it online web-based. It was a webinar count to include what is a PSPS. I think the presentation we're getting today is a lot more in depth for the group. We also talked about lessons learned, the 2020 improvements we talked about, local progress on key community wildfire safety plan initiatives, and also how to prepare for PSPS events. Additional webinars under consideration with the following stakeholders. We want to make sure that our tribes in the area know. Telecommunication companies such as Verizon, AT&T, Comcast, and others. Hospitals, healthcare, as you can see, Spanish language. So we're definitely going the direction of making sure that we have language specific as well. So we're also exploring the following approaches for reaching customers who may not have the technology to join online webinars. We realize that not everybody is online. So we're looking to do telephone town halls, distribution through community-based organizations, and distribution through local venues and a direct to vulnerable customers. So we're hoping the Hispanic Chamber, through your guys' reach and Rosa, we can get this information out to our customers to provide them with information prior to any events. Next slide, please. I think this is it. So this is the end of our presentation. And at this point, Leo, I'll give the call back to you, how you want to question and answer period.
Sure, Amit. So for those of you who are just getting and gathering thoughts to ask questions, just remember to unmute yourself or put in the chat section. Amit, I remember you share a website for Marketplace. Is that a resource you'd like to share briefly or talk about briefly?
Sure. That's so that's separate than PSPS. That is just a site that I show people if you're looking to get a water heater, a thermostat. It's the website marketplace.pgne.com. Essentially shows you the rebates that PG&E is offering on what devices and if it makes sense for you to purchase those. And the side note is PG&E does not benefit directly from it. It's just a resource for our customers.
Got it. Yeah, I think that was related to the circumstances of getting ready, right? And there's one thing to be notified, but there may be organizations or institutions that may need to be prepared ahead of time for emergency power shutdown. So I think it has something to do with that.
Yeah, Leo. So I think it shows you if there's, if you're looking at generators or other options, and I think what you're referring to is, if businesses want to get a plan, they should have a plan for backup power now rather than when the event is actually happening, and then you have to source the material or generator. It's harder to get at the time. So I want to pause and see, John, do you want to add anything for the good of the order or any other additional comments you may have?
No, I think, the key here is we understand these were very impactful last year. And so we've been working significantly since last year to get feedback from the community through listening sessions and these working sessions with our community partners, more specifically with local government. And that's what we have before you today. We're going to be making these smaller, shorter, and smarter. There's still the potential of an impact, but hopefully it'll be less impactful than we've seen in 2019. And our website has more resources than it did last year. So I'd encourage you to look at those, to our website and look at those resources. If you have any questions after today, please let Amit or I know, and we'll be very responsive to you.
Thank you. This time, if anybody has any questions, you can unmute yourself, put in the chat section, or else I have follow-up questions.
So I had one follow-up question for you, Amit and John.
Hey, Ricky.
Hey, Leo. So hey, everyone. So I wanted a quick question for Amit and John, the PG&E gurus here. So I noticed there was in that, I think it was slide maybe 15 or 16, if I'm getting this correct, but it said there that Glenn County and then a couple other counties had declined the outreach. So what was the reason cited for those counties declining?
That's a great question. So for them in particular, the impacts were small or non-existent. And so they didn't see the need for, these meetings are about 2 to 3 hours long. So they didn't think there was any need for that type of discussion, just given the impact was less to nothing.
Oh, wow. So it's probably because of the population or lack thereof of the county didn't warrant the resources needed to devote.
That could be, yes.
Okay, that makes sense. Thank you.
Yep.
Thanks, Ricky.
You're welcome.
I have a question.
Yes, Rosa, go ahead.
Yes, how long will it take? I know that we want to be proactive, and that's why this meeting is so helpful, so that we can prepare for what's ahead. But how long will it take after the client applied for the medical program to get authorized?
Great question. So typically we say about 2 billing cycles typically 2 months, but I think with it being online, it might be sooner. John, do you want to add anything to that, or is
Yeah,
it still...
I'd say, you know, the typical process is the customer to go download the information and take it to their doctor for certification and then submit it. And so that's a process in itself. Given the current situation we find ourselves in with COVID, you can now self-certify online. So it's significantly reduced the time. I don't know the actual time it'll take, but it's reduced that time. But, you know, let's just double check that and get back to you on it.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
And I know the presentation is being recorded. Will the participants have access to have the slides perhaps, or we just have to go to the Chamber of Commerce, Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, or how do we have, because it'll be easy for us sometimes to just refer to the presentation. So how can we share that?
Yeah, we can send that. I guess, Amit, if you sent it to the chamber, they can then distribute it to the members.
Yeah, Leo has it.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, if PG&E is comfortable with that, definitely be happy to
it's a
send
public
it to
document.
those register.
I mean, it's a great valuable information here for all of us, you know, just to have it. I think it'd be helpful too.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Definitely, I can share it with those register and ask for it.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Leo.
Yeah, sure. For question for you, Amit and John, I guess I'm still not clear. You provided the example for that the situation early in June was not a considered PSPS event. Could you give us some more examples on when a PSPS event is, or maybe clear out the definition of a
Yeah, so I'm
PSPS
going to
event?
pass that to John Costa. He's been through I came back in January, so John has a history of it. So.
Yeah, so typically it kind of mirrors fire season. So fire season starts June 1st. And given our current climate, you know, things have changed where we're seeing fire season well into October, early November. So a PSPS season kind of mirrors that to some degree. But really what we start looking at is weather patterns, red flag warnings, and then we start looking at moisture content on the ground. We've got crews in the field. So it takes a variety of things that we look at before we determine a PSPS event, but just typical time frame, it follows the fire season.
Thank you.
I
Are those
have a question.
lit? Sorry, go ahead.
I'm sorry, maybe you already expressed, but sorry for my ignorance. What does PSPM stand for?
Yes, it stands for Public Safety Power Shutoff.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And when this happens, the PSPS Public Safety Power Shutoff, is PG&E making those calls, or could it be local government or public safety entities requesting that to PG&E?
Yeah, great question. So those decisions are made by our Emergency Operations Center. So they'll be the ones that make those decisions based on the criteria that we follow.
Okay. And I see that's probably the reason why there's EOC communications open with counties and cities.
Yes, sir.
For situations like that when it happens.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
One more question, I'm sorry.
Yes.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Will hospitals during this power shut off, will hospitals and community residential care communities like ourselves will have any grace period or be exempted, or do you have the capability of doing that?
So you're asking about the impact of these events on these types of facilities, like hospitals, for instance?
Costco, but like for us, we have close to 150 residents in the community inside.
I see.
And so last year, if I remember correctly, we had the blockouts around. We were not impacted in the community.
Mm-hmm.
But do we have the grace period to say, well, because of the population and amount of people that you serve, do you have the capacity to leave the lights on?
No, unfortunately we don't. So if we make the determination to do a PSPS event, it's because of safety. And it depends on a variety of factors, but as I mentioned, one of those is tier 2, tier 3 zones, high fire threat areas, and then the weather patterns, red flag warnings. And so we look at those things, we make determinations. It depends on how the grid is designed in your particular area, that you may not have experienced one last year. I'd say the good news is we're moving to reduce the overall impact this year by 1/3. So those that may have been impacted last year may not be this year, just given the configuration. But there's no grace period on how these events work.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I just put the presentation here again for the new configurations once you PG&E set up all the devices. I know your facility is in Vacaville, Rosa, just not sure where, but that gives you an idea, right? The circumstances of PSPS and if it will fall under that setup. And Amit, John, not sure if you want to mention something.
Thank you.
Yeah, so as you can see from this map, it's really the configuration of the infrastructure, but the light blue area is potentially removed from scope due to these sexualizing devices.
So, John, I realize you had to jump at 5:30.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I have to go.
Yeah, no worries. So I can stay and answer questions to the best of my ability. If I don't have the answer, I can circle back and provide the answer. So
thank you very
John.
much for your time, everyone.
Perfect. Thank you, John.
Thank you, John.
All right. Any other?
Yeah, just a reminder for those of you that are in the Zoom call, if you would like to ask a question, you can unmute yourself or ask them in the chat section. A question I had, Amit, is you mentioned about the community resource centers. And I see that you put it, the PG&E puts agreement in place. So is that agreements are already in place so that whenever a PSPS event happens, those centers will activate for this event? Is that the purpose of the community resource centers?
Yes, Leo. Great question and point out. So typically I want to say the agreement is for 10 years if all goes well. And we would give the facility at least 24-hour notice, typically because we give the customers at least 48-hour notice. Hey, we're going to open up the CRC, and that people would be aware of it. Hey, this is where you can go if you're in Fairfield, Sassoon, and then Vacaville. So you don't have to go to the one in your city. You can actually go to any of the open CRC. So say if you're in American Canyon, you can go to the American Library, American Canyon Library in American Canyon.
So I hear you mention where the community resource centers are activated. There will be communication to the community to let them know they're available. Is that PG&E doing those communications?
My understanding is that we would do some sort of press release so people know about it. And I'm sure at some level, the local government would also inform people, almost like a cooling center. And I think that's why we're doing this presentation, is to share with the people, hey, in the back of your mind, if there's a PSPS event, you can head to the Solano Community College site in Vacaville. That agreement is signed. The Sassoon City Community Center agreement has been signed with Joseph A. Nelson, but we would be providing that information if there is a PSPS event impacting that community.
Thank you. Any other questions? All right. Looks like there was a lot of great clarification on the presentation today.
All right, thank you guys. I just want to say once again, thank you for everybody's time. We'll give you your 15 minutes back. Hope this information was valuable to you. And Leo, once again, thank you to Hispanic Chamber and everybody for putting this together and making this happen. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Amit. Definitely appreciate it. Thank you, everyone, for attending. Have a good one.
All right, thank you guys. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.